I've been every range of different emotions when I'm traveling, and I kind of want it to be that. I don't see travel as like a inherently like positive thing. I see it as like it's the whole gamut of emotions. It can be pretty lonely, and I think that's something I've relied on, having other people around to kind of fill that like void and that noise. And I think traveling and just the last couple of trips I've done, I've really embraced that time on my own. And I think it's helped me to like get in touch with like myself again. And if I come home from a trip and I haven't like learned something about myself or found some like big piece of like meaning from the trip, I'll like be pretty disappointed. If I've got anything to like work through personally, or like I need to grow and like adapt as a human, like I feel like that happens so much faster when I'm traveling.
Okay, so today my guest is Stefan. Welcome and thank you for joining us. Do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself and your background?
Yep. My name's Stefan. I'm from Sydney, and I'm a videographer.
Cool. So let's start off by talking about when you started traveling and what led you to start traveling abroad specifically.
I started quite late compared to most people. My first overseas trip was when I was 16. My parents are from England, and we went to the UK for a month. Really opened my mind. Got to meet a lot of my family that live over there, and went to Singapore and the UK for like 3 weeks a month, right on the time when the World Cup was on.
Okay.
So it was watching the games with different cultures, being surrounded by different cultures in Singapore. I'd never seen Asian culture properly. It was completely, yeah, mind opening, really fun. And then went to the UK, and that was a really nice experience. And that made me want to sort of go back to the UK, but also gave me a little like taste of like what travel's like. And I definitely want to experience some different cultures. And 5 years later, I went on a big trip when I was 21.
Okay.
So yeah.
And where was that trip to when you were 21?
I spent 3 months in Southeast Asia.
Okay.
Did Thailand, Cambodia, Vietnam, Laos. Kind of the pretty classic route around Southeast Asia that most backpackers do. That was the perfect start for me. It was great. I sort of met up with friends that were traveling already, and then was on my own for a bit too, so it was a good combination. And then moved to the UK for a bit over a year. Lived sort of around where my family are from, like the north of England. It was really fun. Really enjoyed that. Good, good experience to grow up a little bit, being on my own in a foreign country, and it was really, really nice. And then after that, we on the way home came back to Southeast Asia for 5 months,
Okay.
and then traveled some of the same places. I'll be honest. Spent a lot of time in Thailand, Cambodia. I also went to Burma.
Burma.
I think was
Okay.
like the first really visceral travel experience I had, where it was like the culture shock was like massive.
Okay.
Amazing experience, but that was probably like the first, what I would count as like real nitty gritty kind of raw travel that I did. So,
What was so notable about it in terms of it being gritty?
Burma is, it's got like a pretty, it's got a pretty bleak kind of history
Okay.
of like human rights abuses, a lot of political issues. The religion's tied into all that stuff. It's had a lot of issues since the British colonialized it.
Okay.
It's fascinating culture, but the people are like beautiful, like they're amazing, and the landscape is incredible. It's a really beautiful country as well. So sometimes it was really easy to travel there, staying in nice hotels, beaches.
Yeah.
Other times it was like really raw. I got a good mix of like a bit of everything. It was nice.
And how did you end up there? Like, why did you choose to travel there?
To be honest, we were in the UK. It was like winter. I was coming back into like my second winter there. I was living with my friend, and we were talking about moving to another city in the UK or getting like an apartment together. And then he was like, "Crazy idea. Let's go back to Asia." I think he just wanted to be back in the sun and around the good vibes in Southeast Asia. And I was like, "No way. I want like a big experience." Like, so I was like pressing for India.
Okay.
And he was like, "Not going to India." And then we compromised on Burma, which is pretty funny. And then we met up with another friend of his who's become a good friend of mine. And this kind of crazy series of events happened from there. We was supposed to travel for about a month and then come home.
Okay.
And we ended up traveling for 5 months.
Wow.
it was quite unexpected. But yeah, really glad it happened that way.
Yeah. So you said that you moved back to the UK and you were living and working there.
Yeah.
Why did you choose to move back, and like what were you doing during that time?
Well, it wasn't so much move back. I was born and raised in Sydney, but my parents are from there. Like my sister was born there. I've always just been really fascinated by the culture. I've always like kept in touch with like my family over there, and most of my family like live there.
Okay.
Extended family. So it's always been something I wanted to kind of like unpack and kind of figure out who I am a little bit more, like where we're from and that sort of thing. So going there after a few months, I was pretty settled. It kind of felt almost like yeah, like it was easy to be there.
Yeah.
It was nice, and I had like the support of like aunties, uncles, cousins, and made some good friends there. I've completely forgot the question. I completely ran off
No
track
worries.
there.
Yeah. Like what were you doing during that
Oh,
time?
right. So at the time, I was working in like the social sector,
Okay.
and I went there with the intention to do that and then study there, go to uni there, and then ended up completely sacking that off and got a job in like a telesales job, which was bizarre. I'm not a salesperson at all, but it was a good experience. I quite enjoyed it. I learned a lot about myself.
Yeah.
A lot about communication, how to
Okay.
communicate effectively, and I just made some good friends in there. I still in touch with today, still travel with today, and just kind of didn't do a ton of traveling from there, which is just looking back probably a bit stupid because I was in right next to Europe.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just traveled a lot around the UK and kind of embraced all that and just had fun. I was 21, 22. I was a dumb kid, but I just had a good time, had fun, and then worked for like, a year there. It was good.
Okay. And so when you eventually made it back to Southeast Asia, what was your intention with that trip? Just to explore and
Pretty much just to go to Burma and like experience a different culture and have a month, go to like a new country, new cultural experience, and then head home. We're meant to sort of like arrive home on Christmas Eve, and our
Okay.
family, we told them we were still in Liverpool in England, and we were gonna like turn up at like our big family like Christmas party. Like we didn't do that at all. So
wait, so how did you break the news to them then?
on Skype, yeah. So it's kind of a long series of events, but we were traveling with a guy, and then he had been on a TV show with an American German producer director who was doing sort of reality TV. He'd had a couple of shows already that he'd made, and he wanted to make one in Asia. We met up with him when we were in Burma at a Jason Mraz concert, which is bizarre. It was the weirdest like festival concert gig I've ever been to. It was so strange. We were in with the locals drinking like cheap wine, and like they were like jumping on us, getting photos with us. It was like there was like not many Westerners there, so it was like really fun. And just Burmese bands were playing. Like,
That's awesome.
there was a Thai band there. I remember that were like a rip off of like Bon Jovi.
Oh my gosh.
And they were like, I think the crowd like just accepted it was Bon Jovi.
Yeah.
For like,
Wow, that's amazing.
yeah, it was really fun. And then we had a chat with the producer, like the director after, and he kind of said, I'm going to do a pilot episode for this TV show. Do you guys want to be involved? And we were like, no, it doesn't work with our schedule. And then we kind of spent about a month kind of like coming to terms with doing it, going back and forth, and eventually decided to do it. By the time we got back to Bangkok to start the show that we thought would be a 3-week show, but would only be a 1-hour pilot episode, it turned into a full-blown TV show. And it was absolute chaos. Like, it was the craziest experience ever. I was like, it was super fun, and it was just wild. And yeah, like looking back, it doesn't quite feel real.
Sounds pretty insane. How did you finally like decide to go and do that?
Me and my mate were traveling together, and we just went back and forth 1,000 times. And then I remember we met this really cool like group of friends. We were on Koh Tao in Thailand, and we were just not doing any diving, just partying and having like a really good time over Christmas and New Year's. And then when the time came because we already had our flights booked we booked them when we were in England. So when it came time to like get the bus from like Koh Tao back to like Saratani and then back up to Bangkok and then Bangkok will fly home, we were like, we need to leave to get the bus, otherwise like we're missing the flight, and we just got to accept it and we're staying. And we were like up until an hour before we were still like not sure. So we went to buy beer in the bottle shop, and my mate was just over it and just said, just make a decision. And I went, all right, we're staying. He's like, all right. We stayed like we were so young and stupid. It was so
Wow.
funny. Yeah, yeah.
But
It was
it
great.
ended up being a really good decision, no?
Yeah, yeah. It was like it was fun and everything, but for me, like it kind of like altered like the course of my life when I really think about it. It seems like I don't know. I don't feel comfortable explaining it like that, but when I look
Yeah.
at it, it really just planted a seed in my head.
Mm-hmm.
So we did the show, made some lifelong friends on it, had an absolute blast. It was chaos. We were driving tuk-tuks from Bangkok up into Laos, down to the bottom of Laos through like Don Det, the 4,000 islands,
Oh.
into Cambodia. And then the idea was to end up at Koh Phangan, like the famous full moon party, but we didn't quite make it. The tuk-tuks broke down constantly. It was a nightmare, but it was so fun. Chang and Mekong, like the local beer and whiskey companies, like supplied unlimited alcohol. So we were
Wow.
all
Wow.
like, I think 18 to 31 was the age gap, and it was 15 backpackers from I think 8 or 9 countries. So we had like Sweden, Germany, Australia, UK, France, French Canadians, American, 7, forgetting 1 or 2.
Mm.
Really good mix of people from different places. And it was just chaos.
It sounds like it, but it sounds incredible.
Yeah. So the like the videographers and everything were like in with us all the time, and we like, became like really friendly with them. They were like sitting in the tuk-tuk filming us hours every day. And I just remember I kind of wanted like to figure out what I was doing career-wise, like while I was traveling, and then when I came back, I don't know, to decide to like, study something or change. But I was still really young. I wasn't sure what I wanted to do, and then I saw what they did. Like they were traveling around filming, and it blew my mind, to be honest. Like I was like, that sounds like the coolest job ever. Like I want to do that. So that kind of started me like looking down that direction when I got back to Sydney, and now I'm doing that as a job. It seems, yeah, I don't know. It seems a bit surreal. Yeah,
Yeah.
that started. That was the complete. Like that was like the idea that
Yeah.
caught in my head.
It was like a catalyst for.
Yeah, it was the catalyst. Yeah, it wouldn't. I never would have even looked in this area if that didn't happen. So it was feels like it was meant to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, interesting thought experiment. What do you think you would be doing if you hadn't gone on that trip or you hadn't said yes to skipping the bus and the flight back?
Yeah, it's a like when I look at it, like I often think about it like this, but I think it's like a sliding doors moment.
Mm-hmm.
What I would be doing, I don't know now. I think I still would have been looking for something else, career change that gave me a bit more fulfillment. But at the time, I was in the social sector, so I was
Yeah.
sort of like I came back and I was running like a youth homelessness kind of refuges, which like I love people and I love helping people, and that job was awesome, but it wasn't. I didn't enjoy the kind of red tape around it, the bureaucratic side of it. It felt like you couldn't always really help people the way like I wanted to.
Yeah.
So kind of working up in that industry and then getting a bigger taste of it kind of made me not want to stay in that industry.
Yeah.
I like people, I like their stories, stuff like that. So I wanted to do that more. And I think doing film, videography, documentaries, whatever, I can tell people stories better than I can like through that, working in that sector. So I would probably be working in that sector maybe.
Okay.
Yeah, I haven't thought about it in a long time what I would be doing, but that's probably where I would be. I'd be working for a non-for-profit or something, and yeah. So
So, in terms of like interesting travel stories, it seems like this is probably the most notable working on this TV show and getting into film. But what are some of the wildest stories that you have from travel?
yeah, such a rough question. I told you to be gentle on me.
You can share the PC ones if you want.
Okay. Just like about travel or work.
Or yeah, just like any notable experiences that maybe even like outrageous in like a fun way.
Uh, for example, a friend of mine that I was on the show with like messaged me and said he's gonna be in Bali. He's from Canada and was like, "Come and like hang out. I'm gonna do a TV show." And I was like, "Okay." Went to Bali and then met up with them in a bar and was chatting with the other videographers. And I was still really fresh to it, but I just bought a drone and was doing some drone work. And they just invited me on the show, and I ended up like playing a character on the show as well. And I was just going to hang out with my friend and met like the whole production team and the director that did our show ended up coming over, so I got to catch up with him, and really good experience to like go from having this idea to want to do film and videography and whatever, and then actually being back with like the same people where like that idea started, where I was actually kind of I'd started my journey by that point. was quite cool. Really good experience. I did the drone work for the show, and
Okay.
a lot of fun in Bali just for like 10 days. It was really good.
What are some of the things that you've kind of been confronted with while traveling that have been the most difficult?
I love this question. It's like a big focus for me with traveling. Like I think I have like a bit of a specific kind of way I travel that works for me. Um, I don't see travel as like a inherently like positive thing. I see it as like it's the whole gamut of emotions. So I've had lots of bad experience, negative experiences. I've been every range of different emotions when I'm traveling, and I kind of want it to be that. Like I don't travel to have like a break. I don't do like an all-inclusive kind of holiday where I
Yeah.
drink, cocktails in a pool. I don't think I've ever done that. Like
Yeah.
I travel like kind of pretty fast paced and try to like see and do as much as I can. If I come home from a trip and I haven't like learned something about myself or found some like big piece of like meaning from the trip, I'd be pretty disappointed. I normally come home with like figuring something out. That's my main goal when I travel.
Okay.
Yeah, it's the main reason I do it really. Yeah.
So with that in mind, like it sounds like you do go with an intention, but what are some experiences that you've had that have like been kind of difficult or like maybe stretched you personally that you've had to kind of work through while traveling?
I'd say I'm like fairly extroverted. I'm pretty comfortable when I'm around people. Traveling at times, it can be pretty lonely. And I think that's something I've relied on having other people around, like my friends, family, relationships, to kind of fill that like void and that noise. And I think traveling and just the last couple of trips I've done, I've like, really embraced that time on my own. And I think it's helped me to like get in touch with like myself again. And now I'm pretty comfortable being on my own. I quite enjoy my own time, where there was a period of time where I didn't.
Yeah.
And just like if I've got anything to like work through personally or like I need to grow and like adapt as a human, like I feel like that happens so much faster when I'm traveling. It seems like life just like puts these random people in my place, in place, and like I just will be having a chat that I don't think means anything and just hanging out, and then like I'll leave the next day, get on the train to go to the next place, and it will kind of dawn on me like, oh wow, like I feel like that person was like put there just for that one sentence they said that just like was like a light bulb in my head. I can think of so many times that's happened, and it's like I don't know. It's just changed my perspective a little bit and like how I'm looking at it, and helped me to like grow or like figure out a problem that I'm having and try to like find a solution to that. And
Yeah.
it's nice. Like it's meaningful. I think it's good. I come home and I'm like, whatever I was like worried about or a problem that I had, like I've kind of fixed it roughly. Like by the time I get back from the trip or
Yeah.
the trip's over, it's good.
Have you ever made seemingly random connections with people traveling and then you like have later reconnected with them or they've showed up in a more significant way in your life?
Yeah. Yeah, I think like when I travel now, I try to like tie it in with seeing friends that I've met. Um, I've got like a really bad memory, so like I'll just like forget, like I'll remember people and almost forget like what we did. And other people were like, "Yeah, do you remember this time we were at this place?" And I'm like, "Oh yeah, like I completely forgot about that." Um, but yeah, I'd say like majority of like the people that I've kind of met traveling, I've met up with like if I've met up with them twice, I've met up with them three, four times.
Okay.
Yeah, I like the connections and the relationships and building on them. And as we like get older and things change and people change jobs and careers and have kids and all this stuff happens, like I like just like seeing them again and catching up and seeing that growth and yeah, like building on an already existing kind of friendship or relationship rather than sort of like always making like new ones.
Yeah.
You always do meet new people
Yeah.
traveling and they go into that bracket or a group of people. But yeah, I've like met up with a lot of people. Yeah, I love it. It's great.
Awesome. So I think previously you were telling me about a trip that you had taken recently. What was the last trip that you took?
I just maybe 2 months ago got back from Europe. I went to Europe. I went to the UK for 10 days.
Okay.
10 days, yeah, and caught up with all my family, my friends. I made an effort to go around and like see as many people as I could. It was quite emotionally like taxing at times because I was just around people constantly,
Yeah.
and so many people that like I love and I hadn't seen for a while. And by the time I left there, I was so like emotionally exhausted. Like I really was craving time on my own.
Yeah.
But such a like a good 10 days. Like just caught up with so many people and just spent some really quality time. Like so I left there with like my like heart super full.
Oh.
Like it was really nice. And then after that, I went to Lithuania, Barcelona, San Sebastian in the north of Spain, and then spent 2 weeks in Portugal,
Nice.
Dubai for a couple of days, and then home. So
Okay.
about 5 weeks.
Okay. So on the trip after seeing your family, out of all of those places, is there anywhere that stands out more than the other as being most noticeable in terms of like what you took away from it, or was there like any culture that you really connected with that you hadn't previously?
I'd never been to Spain. I had been for like a few days to Mallorca in Spain, but it's like I'd never been around like any sort of like Spanish or Latino culture, and it's something like I really want to explore more. I spent a lot of time in Asia, a lot of time in kind of Central and kind of the north of Europe. That was like a big kind of focus of this trip. I always try and pick like one kind of star place that I really want to explore, and that was Portugal in this trip. I just felt like I've got a few friends with, like Portuguese background, and like I just kept getting drawn towards it, and I was like, all right, I got to go to Portugal, like see what it's all about. Lithuania was really significant but insignificant because
Okay.
my grandfather's from there.
Oh,
And my
nice.
last name's Lithuanian. It's like
Okay.
me and my dad, like it's important to us, like our culture. And we was like talk about it, make jokes about it, and but neither of us have ever been.
Okay.
So I finally just went, yeah, I got to do this and go. And I just walked around the city in Vilnius for a few days and just kind of like soaked it up. But it was weird because I was like, I'm from here. Like this is like
Yeah.
my background. Like most of my ancestors are from here. And it
Okay.
was just kind of like, I don't know, a strange experience. It was really uneventful, but it was really nice. I was just on my own for 3 days. Didn't really make any friends. Didn't really try to. Just walked around with my camera, taking photos, and I left there like feeling like really recharged and reset.
Okay.
Yeah, it was really nice. I don't know if I took anything deep from it. But
Okay.
It was nice to finally be able to say I've been there. And then Spain was awesome, a lot of fun. But I'd say in Portugal, I went to a place called the Azores. I want to try and pronounce it how the Portuguese do. I'm like, Portuguese is shit. Ashores, something like that. It's 800 miles off the coast of kind of like Lisbon.
Okay.
It's in the mid, just these 9 islands in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. I didn't even know they existed a month before my trip. My friend told me about them. I was like, I've got to go there. People say, or like historians say, it's the most likely spot for the lost city of Atlantis.
Wow.
Yeah. So when I heard that, it kind of like blew my mind. And I was like, yeah, I've got to go here. So I rerouted my trip a little bit to make sure I fit that in. Spend less time in Lisbon, which anybody who's traveled Portugal always says like I'm a dickhead for doing. And I was like, Lisbon's Lisbon, I get it, it's amazing, but I just spent a couple of days there, and that's all the time I had. I just decided to go to the Azores and prioritize that instead, and it was like maybe the best thing I've ever done traveling.
Really?
Incredible place.
What was so notable about it?
So I didn't have much time, so I just tried to like hit it hard and like get like the greatest hits in. So I just flew to one island in particular, Pico Island. They have the highest mountain in Portugal.
Okay.
That island, and I did a hike up to the top. So with like a guide and 3 other people, it was you hike to the top in the afternoon, and then you camp out in the crater of the volcano, and then in the morning it's like it's called like Mount Pico, and then it has like another little peak on top, and it's called Piquinho.
Okay.
And then you hike to there in the morning at like with a head torch on in like before sunset, and then you get up to the top and sit there and have your morning coffee, and it's like
Oh,
the
incredible.
sun's rising. Yeah, it's impossible to explain like how beautiful it was. It was insanely nice. Like
Wow.
yeah. So I like one of my main priorities is to shoot content when I'm away, and a lot of it's so I can just remember it, not even for like social media so much, but I obviously need to do that too. But I got the drone out, flew the drone around a couple of times, and got some shots, and like amazing place. Yeah,
Wow.
amazing experience. No one could hike up it for 14 days before. The weather was just really bad,
Okay.
windy, raining, so they weren't allowed, and I had no idea this was happening. So I just showed up, spent so much money to fly from San Sebastian to Lisbon. Yeah, no, San Sebastian to Madrid, Madrid to Lisbon, Lisbon to Pico. So nearly missed my flight at San Sebastian Airport. It was like I was so stressed. My alarm didn't go off my phone.
No.
I was devastated. Yeah. I just got there.
Wow.
And it was like if I missed that, I missed like 4 flights. It cost me like 800 euros.
Oh my
I booked it last minute. I'm an idiot. But it was like, but I got on the flight, and then the last leg I was so tired, and then like really nice flight like over from Lisbon to the Azores. And then as we're trying to land on Pico, the plane just kept circling the island, and they were saying the wind's really bad.
Okay.
They announced, oh, we can't land on the island. I was like, yeah, of course. So we landed on the next island, Fayal, and then the tiniest like runway I've ever seen.
Really?
Plane landed, everyone like clapped the pilot. I'd never experienced that travel. I'd never seen that before. And then we had to get like buses and a ferry across to the other island. It took hours. It was
Wow.
just like, it was like funny. I found it like funny. It was a good experience. And then the next day, I hiked the volcano and met some really cool people, really good guide. He was excellent.
Wow.
And yeah, like phenomenal experience. It was super nice. And then spent a couple of days just looking around the island, going to the little villages. One day, I had a friend who was from Lisbon but living on Pico, working as a doctor, and she like showed me around a lot. She was really good. The guy who did the hike with us, I had a really nice chat with him as well. We had lunch and had a few beers. Um, like a big hero of mine is Anthony Bourdain. You know, like
Totally. Yeah.
you know, like people can say what they want about him and whatever, and I get what he is, what he was.
Yeah.
But I love some of like his outlooks on life and
Absolutely.
travel and food, and it's kind of it's informed my travel a bit, like just
Same.
watching his show. And the chat that I had with the guy, Manuel, that did our that was the guide on our hike, was like I felt almost like I was in an Anthony Bourdain episode, and that made me super happy. It happened multiple times on the trip.
Wow.
Yeah, and I was like, I should have cameras rolling for these conversations because they were super interesting. He was explaining Azores cultures, like culture to me, and in particular, like Pico culture on that island. So
Okay.
all the islands have different cultures,
Wow.
and how that's different from like the mainland, from
Yeah.
Portugal, and it was just super interesting having that conversation, eating limpets.
Limpets.
They're like tiny little clams.
Oh. Oh, okay.
They're caught locally and they're served in the pan they're cooked in. And this particular place did them in like kind of like a like chili oil
Okay.
at the bottom of it. It's super tasty, and we're just like sitting there, kind of like taking turns eating them. Everywhere in Portugal brings out a massive basket of bread, so you're just eating
Okay.
carbs constantly. But the bread is amazing. Like I can't believe I didn't put on weight on this trip because I was eating so much bread in Portugal. And you dip that in like a chili oil with the limpets. It's really specific to Pico and the Azores.
Okay.
It's really nice, with like a octopus salad,
Oh,
which was probably my
interesting.
favorite dish I had in Portugal. I ate it everywhere.
Wow.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's like fresh octopus, bell peppers, what else? Cilantro, fresh like red onion, Spanish onion. Yeah, it's just like this little salad with like a vinaigrette.
Oh,
And
okay.
it's super fresh, super nice. Like everywhere, I was on the coast constantly in Portugal and just had this everywhere. So sitting there having this really traditional like meal from the Azores with a guy who'd grown up in the Azores, explaining the island to me, and they'd been in the news pretty recently. There's a bit of a scandal
Oh.
in the Azores that happened recently where like like somebody was basically murdered. Like that's
Ooh.
from what I can gather. I haven't followed up on the story for a couple of
Oh.
weeks. I need to have a read on it. But our guide knew it was a friend of
Oh
his
my
that-
gosh.
so he was quite stressed like on our hike, and
Yeah.
it was kind of like when he told me like that had been going on, it was quite a oh wow, like because it was just a day at work. He climbs the mountain 3 or 4 times a week for a living.
Wow.
But then he had this whole other thing that he was kind of like trying to help with and support the family, and it was one of his mates. The end of the hike, normally they go to this guy's house and have like a little like drinking session and hang out, and it's nice for the people hiking the mountain to like be around the locals. We drink like like probably more moonshine and that sort of stuff, and it's yeah, it was super interesting when I was back on the mainland actually a few weeks later, and I was in a little Airbnb. It was I can't remember the region, but it was going down towards the Algarve. It's called Obershai, I think it was pronounced. I'm back absolutely butchering that. Cute little beach town, basically. Beautiful beach there. If anybody wants to go there, I'll
Okay.
have to write the name.
Yeah.
My pronunciation shit. And I was talking to the lady that worked there, and then it was just literally on the TV, and I was like watching the news from there, and it was like really strange, like really surreal kind of moment. So yeah, 3 days on Pico was just like so intense and awesome, and we went to this little village and got invited by the locals to come back to like their house and drink like the Vidello that they made themselves, and we're drinking it, and then they gave us this bright green liquid, and I was like, they were translating Portuguese to English through my friend and then explaining what it was. It's fermented from spearmint plant.
Okay.
They were kind of pointing to it, and like it's like where the mountain was, Pico. We were like had cloud cover for days before and couldn't see it, so we're like I was spending time like taking photos of the mountain and everything. And he was like up there, like near the base of the mountain, they have this like plant, it's similar to spearmint, and we ferment it, put sugar in it, and leave it for a couple of months. And then he's like, fucking moonshine. I was like, oh shit, like give me some. So I tried it, and he was kind of like saying, I think he was saying in Portuguese, just like it's pretty fucking strong, like yeah, like kind of get ready. And then I tried it. It was so like it's so intense, like rocket fuel.
Rocket fuel. Did you go to the moon after that?
Definitely, definitely. I had 4 shots of it and was so drunk. Like, yeah, I was staggering around. It was fucking great.
What was it like being a drunkard on the island in the middle of the ocean? You can't speak Portuguese.
Everyone spoke English, to be honest.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, they were really good. They were really, really good. I think they used the tourists. Yeah, fun. Like, it's a big part of my travel, to be honest. Like drinking with locals. And,
That's awesome.
yeah, yeah. I love drinks, so I think it's a bit goes hand in hand with traveling. So yeah, drinking local moonshine, right up there.
Right up
like,
your alley.
A cultural experience for me.
Yeah.
And yeah, they're just like, that's kind of like what they were like. They were like dancing in the street with us.
Aw.
A girl came along with a camera and was like taking photos, just walking around, and she was from Lisbon, and then started chatting to her, and she was a wedding photographer.
Oh.
She was out there on like a recce to do a couple's wedding shoot. So we
Lovely.
ended up hanging out and having dinner with her, and she was awesome. I've got her on Instagram and looking at her stuff, and
Amazing.
it's just cool, like these like random people that have stuff in common with you, like-minded, just like pop up and
Yeah.
like, a few hours hanging out with them, and then boom, gone.
Yeah.
Never see them again. But the locals just fully embraced you. They were just super lovely. It was so nice. It's such a great place. Had really good culture. My last morning there, I flew out at like 10 a.m. and we went and swam in like a volcano pool. Like all the islands are somewhat like dormant volcanoes. The last one erupted in like 19. I'm gonna get this wrong. I think the last one was about 19 like 60, 70.
Okay.
Like recent. Like
Okay.
last 50 years. Not Pico, that one, but another
Island.
San Miguel, I think it was. So like the islands are all volcanic rock. Really interesting history behind the islands. Anybody that's likes history should read up on these all. It's
Okay.
yeah, like proper deep dive. You can just keep going.
Wow.
It's really interesting. So they don't have beaches. It was just like this pool made from like volcanic rock, and we just like we swam in there at like 7 a.m. in the morning before my flight. So the perfect like way to end the trip there. It was like, and I got on the plane just like, holy shit, that place was insane.
Like another world.
Yeah, yeah, like volcanoes and fucking like moonshine. The most amazing food. Had this, yeah, just incredible. Yeah, so good.
Awesome.
So, yeah.
So do you have any other trips coming up planned in the future, or?
To be honest, I felt really fulfilled after that trip. It's been a couple of years with COVID, lockdown laws in Australia meant we couldn't travel overseas.
Yeah.
So hadn't really traveled for a good couple of years and was really missing it. So getting away was like really like I'd been craving it for a while. So I kind of came home like pretty content after this trip. I did a lot of the things I wanted to do, and 5 weeks is pretty good. I was pretty happy with that, considering I had to try and find a gap in my work schedule.
Yeah.
And that gap just opened up really nicely. So I feel like it was kind of like I was meant to go. Had the best time. Came back just so like inspired and new ideas and reset and refreshed and all that good stuff you get from travel. So I think the next year for me will be like more like focusing on building like my life in Sydney, making that even better, working on my career, upskilling. Lately I've just been trying to be like a bit more present, enjoy what I have rather than kind of looking for new experiences. I have like a really nice life in Sydney. I have great friends, great family, and just trying to like be a bit more present with that rather than kind of taking that for granted. Something I think I've done in the past, and trying to build a life for myself here that I don't need to like escape.
Yeah. Totally.
If I want to travel, it's because for like the right reasons, rather than feeling like like I'm not happy here or something, and kind of blurring the lines between like traveling and living in Sydney and spending more time with like people from other cultures and trying to like do more unique experiences here. Sydney's a city with like a lot of different cultures. We have like a big melting pot of different countries and people from different backgrounds, and trying to sort of leverage that more and experience that more than like always going overseas for that.
Yeah.
So my next year will be work, family, friends. That'll be my focus really.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if you could give anyone advice that wants to travel like you do, or get into an industry like you have that allows you to travel, what would be the advice that you would give them?
like to combine work and travel together.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I'm still fairly like, I'm definitely not there yet. I'm still kind of like along my journey, trying to figure all that out myself.
Yeah.
This trip I had to take for the first time, I had to take work with me. So I was
Yeah.
editing the whole time I was away, which was a really unique experience. I've not done that yet.
Okay.
So, and I did a couple of shoots while I was away as well, made my own content and kind of just had to like do all of that, communicating back with clients in Australia and editing while I was away. And it was stressful and like I found it really hard to prioritize. Like when I was in a place, I wanted to get out there and experience the place, but I also had to like sacrifice some of that time to work.
Yeah.
But it's something I want to do more longer term in future. I'd love to like be able to leave for 2 months with like projects I've already filmed, do the editing while I'm away, but be in a place like say like go to Bali for 2 months and live remotely and work and try and shoot content while I'm there. I would love to spend like more time living back in the UK, but I don't want to relocate there.
Yeah.
So I'd love to be like back for like 6 weeks.
Yeah.
You maybe shoot a bit of content there and work on projects that I've got here. If I could do that and travel South America, Central America, that would be like a dream for me to combine travel and work together. That's always been the biggest. That's the reason I got into videography.
Okay.
Yeah. So it was like when I was on the TV show and saw how they were living, it was like, what job can I do that will give me the lifestyle of being able to travel more as well? And photography was the one that I kind of like came up with. And then I was a bit more interested in like the moving picture side of things like video. So I kind of went down that track. So that's still something I want to be able to do into my 30s. And I don't know, I'm trying to manifest that and
Yeah.
figure it all out. And I think just my advice to anybody would just be like, just keep trying, get out there, shoot. Like if you want to do particular, like what I'm doing, like content creation, shoot, network, meet people. It's a unique industry because you're just capturing like other people's stuff. So you
Yeah.
can network with anybody. You can make a video for any business, any person. You're not like sort of like, you're not in like banking. You can only network with like people in the banking sector. It's not like that. We can work with people in banking. We can work with, restaurants,
Yep.
real estate, weddings. Like it's just literally like travel, anything you want.
Yeah.
So yeah, get out there, meet people, network, try and find people that are like-minded, make content with them, learn, fuck up,
Yeah.
fuck up, and just
Fail
keep,
fast and fail
yeah,
often.
exactly, yeah, and keep learning from every experience yeah, like learn your craft, build it, get better, and when you get to that point where you've got like enough resources and you've got enough skill set, you can definitely combine travel and that work together. I'm yet to figure out that code myself. But
Yeah.
I'm on my way trying to, but it's fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So when you do go on a trip, who is your ride to the airport?
Like from home?
Yeah, like who's taking you to the airport? Who's picking you up from the
My
airport?
mum and dad always drop me off at the airport, to be honest. Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah. I mean, they
Shout out to mom and dad.
yeah, for the free airport shuttle. My mates have dropped me off once or twice, but to be honest, yeah, I just always get them to drop me off. They like, I think they enjoy it. Like when I get home, I always spend some time with them, like talk about like, the trip and whatever. They like traveling themselves. So yeah, they always drop me off. To be honest, yeah.
Awesome.
I never really thought about that. Yeah, mom and dad.
Love it.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So this is the part where you plug anything that you have going on that you want
Yeah.
people to know about. What are
Yeah.
you working on? And how can we support you in getting eyes on it?
I have two businesses. So I have one that's like kind of like just my freelance business, my name, Stefan White Productions. Go to Instagram, follow, DM me for work. Always looking to take on new clients, and that's where I put most of my stuff. A lot of travel content, kind of a mesh between travel and my like kind of client-based work. And then I have a wedding business as well. It's called Whitestone Wedding Films. So head over there. Anybody who's got a wedding, hit me up. We're now, as of the next few months of this year, probably from the 1st of January, we'll be not just doing video, we'll be doing photography as well.
Okay.
A friend of mine that does both video and photos coming on board, and we're going to kind of combine our resources together, and he's going to shoot for us, and it's kind of try to grow that business and do more in the wedding space. And then I'm starting a little side project called Ordinary People. So Instagram, YouTube, it's sort of like mini documentaries, just getting people that are like interesting, that might not even realize they're that interesting, and pulling their story out I think one of my big things in life is that everyone has a story. And
Yeah.
you just need to listen and ask the right questions to anybody, and you'll like maybe be like surprised by the story they do have. I think a lot of it's based from like my work working in the social sector. Like I just loved hanging out with clients and chatting to them and getting past the kind of like client kind of customer worker kind of relationship and trying to understand where they were coming from, what they were going through. And I think I've kind of taken that into travel as well.
Yeah.
So I want to make a channel that's kind of based around that, telling people stories, getting down to like the more like the raw details, and being a bit vulnerable on camera and stuff like that. So that'll be like a big focus of mine in 2023. So yeah, ordinary people.
Ordinary people. So you have ordinary people, your wedding business,
Lifespan wedding films, yep.
and your personal content.
Yeah, Stefan White production.
Beautiful.
Yep.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for being on Now Departing Ordinary.
No worries. Thanks for having me.
Awesome.